Now we're at the board we have in this venue. Okay, this is a Roland M480 board. It's a digital board. So really the only thing that's coming into this board from the patch panel is two thin Cat5 lines. Okay, and then we have a couple other things going out. So if you look behind it, you don't have to look behind it, but there's a couple of different wires, but there's not as many as what's coming on off the pocket into the patch panel. Okay, so remember in the last video it was number 1 white in the white pocket went to 7 in the patch panel, and then that 7 came to, what did I say? 11 here. So that is the left key button, left keyboard channel. Okay, so my guess is number 2 in the patch panel went to 8, and number 2 in the pocket went to 8 in the panel, which goes to 12 here. Okay, and that's your left, right, and the keys. Okay, so that's how the patch panel works. Okay, in this video, what I want to show you is how to set your gains. Okay, and a couple of videos ago, I showed you all the components of the soundboard. So we're going to focus here on the preamp. Okay, so once sound comes into the board, the first place we're going to have to adjust is the preamp. Okay, there's 3 buttons here, or 2 buttons and a knob. Okay, the preamp gain, okay, is this knob here. Now, what a gain does is, first thing you need to understand is a gain is not a volume control. Okay, get that into your head. A gain is not a volume control. Okay, a gain determines how much voltage it goes into the system. Okay, so it adds or removes voltage. Okay, so if you got too much voltage going into the system, that's where you get your feedback problems. Okay, the volume is the faders down here. You want to adjust volume, you adjust it down here. Okay, so when the sound first comes into the board, it comes into here. There's 2 buttons here, plus 48V and pad. Okay, plus 48V means you add automatically with a press of 1 button 48 volts. Okay, and then if you hit the pad button, it subtracts 48 volts. Okay, so you have to make a choice. What do you want? Nothing, plus 48 volts, or pad it. Okay, just don't do both, because you do both, it cancels each other. Okay, well, not really, but in theory it does. Okay, so how do we set gain? Okay, well, there are a couple of different ways to do it. The way I choose to do it is, what we're going to do is I'm going to run a CD through the panel here. So I'm going to play the CD. I'm going to play the CD. Okay, so I got music coming in. So if you look at the panel, you will see these lights. Okay, now they're not there for your visual enjoyment. They're there for a purpose. Okay, so you can adjust the gain with the fader up or not. Okay, now this is a left-right. These 2 fader on a digital panel is linked. Okay, so some people will turn off the mute and move up the fader to 0 or unity. Okay, 0, it's either 0 or unity. It's the same thing. Okay, now sometimes I like doing that and sometimes I don't. It just depends on before I start moving things, what's going on. So if you notice on this particular setup, as I moved up the fader, I wasn't getting to even close to unity before I started to get too loud in the house. So I'm gonna lower that down. I'm gonna mute that for a second. Okay, I'm gonna bring my gain all the way. Actually, this is what I'm gonna do. Just so this works. Okay, I've adjusted the attenuator, which will be on the next video. But this is just give me something to work with. Okay. So now I can put to 0. Okay. Now some people will adjust gain this way. Once you got to unity there, okay, you can mute it. Okay. What I do is I'll turn my gain. I'll turn my gain until the system begins to clip. I clipped it. There you go. See the lights light up on the preamp here, or on your meter here. See how it hits the red? Okay. By muting it, you can still do this without blowing up your speakers or blowing up someone's eardrum or something like that. So you turn the gain until it clips, either on the meter or on whatever indicates on your board that you're clipping. Okay. What happens if you're clipping is you're putting too much voltage into the system. Okay. And now you're going to get either feedback noise or you're going to get distortion. Okay, where the sound becomes very distorted. Okay, so I'll clip it, bring it up. Oh, there's probably, I bet you it's between songs. Okay, I'll clip it and then bring it back 5 or 10 decibels. Bring it back a quarter turn or so. Okay, now that'll give you a little bit more headroom on your faders. Okay, so now if I turn off the music, okay. Now I got a little bit more room to work with when the house is full of people. Okay, whatever you do in practice with an empty room, the sound is very different than when you have a room full of people. Okay, just because the physical bodies of people will absorb the sound. Okay, as it travels back to the back of the house here. Okay, so you know you're going to need to get a little bit more out of the system if you adjust your gain or your volume to a point where you hear it well in the house, but it's empty. You know it's not going to be too loud when there's a lot of people in there. Okay. Now this particular fader is linked. Okay. On a digital board, one thing you have to note is the preamp settings only adjusts one fader at a time. So here, I only adjusted the left fader, but these are linked because they're left-right channels, because on my CD is coming out left-right. Okay, so if we look at the settings here, the left, I got it at 11 decibels. Let's bring it up to 15. Okay, I got it at 15 decibels. But on the right, it's still at plus 10. Okay, so I haven't adjusted the right. So you got to remember, if it's a linked thing like this, okay, then a linked fader like this, then as you adjust the gain on one, you have to remember to adjust the gain on the other. Okay, everything else works in unison. If you adjust the EQ on one, it automatically adjusts it to the other. Okay, the only thing that does not is any of the preamp settings, and the reason for that is just in case you want a different sound different volume out of one speaker versus the other because of the way the setup is, or you want to hear something specific out of one and not the other, that's why you would do that. So it's set up to give you the ability to do that, but a lot of times in a church worship set, you just do both of them. So you just set one, then, so I set one at 15, then I should go back and set the other at negative 15 as well. Now they're coming, now if you look at the meters down here, they're coming out evenly. So if you ever look at these meters and one's a lot louder than the other, it's because you didn't set the settings right, or someone didn't set it right. Okay? So now if you adjust, it adjusts evenly on both sides of the house. Okay? So you got the pad, remember that takes away. If I unmute the pad here, so let's bring it down. If I unmute the pad here, then all of a sudden it should, bring it down. Okay, so notice it automatically jumped up and clipped the system. Okay, now if I had my faders all the way up, I would have, got feedback, damaged speakers, or get a lot of distortion or something like that. Okay, so you rarely want to do a lot of adjustments with the gain in the middle of a mix. Okay, so if you're mixing in the middle of whatever performance, try not to do much of the gain adjustment unless you see the system clipping. Like I'm seeing the system clipping now, so I'm bringing it back to 10 on both sides. Okay, now I have Now I have headroom. Okay. Okay. So. Okay. What you want it to do is when you set your gain, you want the meters to kind of peak at maybe -7 or 8, about 3/4 of the way up. You know, so it gives you room to move what, and then you got some room. If you find that you're in the middle of a service or whatever, and you're clipping, okay, but you need more sound, it's actually, you get more sound by tuning down the gain just a little bit and then pushing up the faders. And then you won't clip the system and you'll get a louder volume out of it, and it's a little bit more clearer. Okay, so that's how you set your preamp gains.